Welcome to the Community Conversations podcast, where we believe that world transformation begins with gospel transformation, and gospel transformation begins with discovering the truth about who God is and who you are. And it starts right now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Community Conversations podcast. Noah, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Doing well. A little freaked out by this cold front.
Yeah.
Come back.
Yeah, I'm not into that.
But yeah, doing good.
Yeah. Katie's been wanting to plant some stuff, but it's like,
Yeah, it'll all die.
yeah.
It'll all die. So yeah, it's been weird. It's like I kind of transitioned all into summer clothes and then
Yeah.
get to break out the threads one more time here.
Yeah. We were going on walks. We were.
Us too, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I normally do a walk at I'm normally working from home. Tuesday's Sabbath, and then Monday we're all together. But Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday I work from home, and then I normally I'll work in the morning, and then at lunch I'll take like an hour walk by myself. And so it's been nice and warm, and
Right.
then now it's been freezing again.
Yeah.
So it sucks.
Yeah. We've been, for Christmas, Nora and Izzy got scooters from Katie's parents.
Nice.
And being in such a hilly neighborhood, it's been awesome. And I've
Right.
been impressed that Nora, historically, she hasn't been the most physically
Gifted.
gifted.
Yeah.
Not the most athletic kid.
Right.
you know?
Right.
But she's been rocking that scooter. So we've been taking down the hills and everything.
Like
and
y'all take them down this hill?
yeah, we I'll have her go about halfway down. before
Okay,
we
yeah,
get started.
that's a big hill.
It's a steep hill in front of our house.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll
Wow.
go through the neighborhood and we'll just,
Look at them.
yeah.
That's fun.
And Izzy, of course, she's a natural.
Of course.
I think she'll be super athletic.
Yeah, she's X Games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's not afraid of anything.
Yeah, doing good.
Good. Let's keep talking about maturity and sonship.
Sure.
We kind of introduced that last week, and I have a couple thoughts to kind of take us to where I want to go. So last week I had mentioned, and for anyone who did go through foundations, would remember that there was a whole teaching we did on sonship, and it was like the 5 stages of maturity. And I kind of referenced that last week, but there are 5 Greek words in the New Testament that we can find that point to different levels of maturity. And last week we talked about how even an immature Christian is still a son,
Right. Right.
and so you look at and there's a lot of overlap between like physical natural growth and spiritual growth, in that you can look at a baby like Benjamin, and he can't do anything to earn your love. He can just kind of sit there.
Right.
He can't even
Yeah.
support his own head.
He just exists.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But still you love him more than anything.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it's this idea that with us talking about maturing into our sonship, it's not about being loved more. It's not about becoming a person that the Father is more proud of, as much as it is about becoming the people that we can become
Right.
in Christ.
Right. Well, yeah, because Benjamin's going to become an adult, no
Right.
matter what.
Yeah.
That's already been like assigned to him.
Yeah.
Adulthood.
Right.
And so the question is, how much do you take on the journey to that?
Yeah.
Like how much do you squeeze out of life in that? And that can be related somewhat
Right.
to spiritual maturity. Like you're going to grow in this thing. It's how much do you want to grow? How much awareness do you want of what has freely been given to you
Yes.
through salvation?
Right.
How much of that, do you want to carry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we look at our kids and we know that they're going to grow up. They're
Right.
going to be 18 one day, 25,
Yeah.
30. But the question is, they are going to be an adult, but what kind of an adult are we going to help them become?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because we have, at the same way, like the Lord has plans for us. Like I have plans for him. I have plans for Benjamin.
Right. Yeah.
He'll be indoctrinated into certain things, whether it's sports teams or, our faith or, all these things that are just going to be
Yeah.
these are the things I want you to like.
Yeah. he's going to be watching a lot of hockey.
Yeah.
He doesn't
a
know that
ton.
now.
He already is. He doesn't know
is.
that.
Yeah, right.
He's watched 4 Toronto Maple Leafs games this week.
Yeah.
And it's Thursday. Like
Yeah.
it's just the nature of
Yeah.
how it goes. And you can, he'll ebb and flow into his own desires, but like he has plans for us, and there's an ability to, and all of that too, I think, is associated with joy. Like I want Benjamin to like hockey so we can watch them together and enjoy those moments together.
Right.
When they score, when they do their, like I want us to share.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Lord's growth is the same, his maturity for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's about enjoyment.
It is.
There's a sense of like, there's almost a sense of like Christian hedonism there, as far as he enjoys me, I enjoy him, and we live in that tangible relationship of finding fulfillment in each other.
Sure.
In a way.
Yeah. And so with these different stages of sonship, the one that like that he wants to see us grow into, it's a Greek word, huios, and there are a couple verses in which that is used, because with all 5 Greek words, let's see here, nepios is kind of the baby stage that we talked about last week, and then you grow up a little bit, and then the next Greek word that would be used for like son or child is paidion, and then teknon is more of like a equivalent to like a high schooler, like a spiritual high schooler, and then there's a neoniskos, which is kind of like a young adult, and then huios is like a fully mature son, one who really understands the kingdom and represents God, in how he acts and how he conducts himself. And there are a couple of verses that I love in which huios is found. And so here's one. Here's Matthew 5, 44 and 45. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven. And the word sons there is huios.
Yes.
And so when you find verses in which the word huios is used to translate as son, you can look around it and what's the context in which that's being said, and you can find some pointers and some markers to identify what does it actually look like to be a mature son or daughter. Right. And in this verse, Jesus is saying, hey, when you've learned how to love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, like that's a sign that you've grown up.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's another one I love. This is Luke 6, 32 through 36. If you love those who love you, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. And if you do good to those who do good, what benefit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to get back the same amount. But love your enemies, and do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. And your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High. The word sons there is huios.
Wow.
And so again, Jesus, as he kind of teaches on what does maturity look like?
Right.
You want to know what it means to be like a fully mature son. You've got to learn how to love everybody.
I think that's like the centerpiece of it, is that maturity is attached to love, not knowledge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think there's obviously from like an earthly perspective, maturity is always seen. You can see it through things like someone has a doctorate, they're seen as more mature because of the knowledge they've been willing to get.
Yeah.
Like how much we study, how much we this, how much we that, and there's a beauty of the Lord saying that your maturity is found in how you love.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Like that is, you want to find maturity, find a man who loves everyone equally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a hard task.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's a beautiful way of kind of looking at the whole process and how that goes and how that functions. And I think there's an interesting thing there where, and I don't know if you've noticed this in your own growth, but I don't find spiritual maturity is linear.
Sure.
I don't find I grow spiritually like this. I find I'm like, like, you know what I mean? And so I think like we're used to, I think in an earthly perspective, arriving here and going, okay, now I have all this knowledge.
Right.
And it's just not that way.
Right.
And I think, that is a big piece about where you can understand the need for consistency without legalism.
Sure.
Like, I think consistency in our faith as far as spiritual disciplines, interaction, prayer, all those things
Sure.
are not about legalism, but they're about the consistency of continuing in maturity. Because you can see yourself go through a season of, it could be hurry, it could be busyness, it could be having a baby, whatever. You're not doing as much, you know what I mean? And you kind of feel this drop, and you're like, I haven't thought about that weird thought in a long time. I haven't struggled with this in a long time. I
Sure.
haven't, what was that verse again I used to say every day? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And all these things eventually you drop down. And so you realize, like, I don't find spiritual maturity is as linear as like the development of, let's say, like starting at university and going all the way into a doctorate, where you finally finish and you're done.
Sure. Yeah.
It's very different. And
Yeah.
and I think that's because I think one of the big reasons of that too is love grows as we grow. And so we learn different facets of love, even dependent upon our relationships, having children, how you function in life, all those things. Your intentionality, even in community, builds your love.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you're intentional in community and living, and how you choose to do life with people through maybe how dumb they are, or the way they think or the way they process something. You're like, you freaking idiot.
Yeah.
Like, but I'm going to choose to do life with you and community with you. Like, all those things grow you. And I think sometimes we're hoping that our lives spiritually look like one linear uptick, like The Price is Right. Just keep climbing up the mountain. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just not the process.
Yeah.
And it's love based, and love ebbs and flows in my life depending on how I commit myself to those around me.
Yeah. 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 And you saying that reminded me, this is something you and I have talked about. I don't remember if we've talked about it on the podcast, but there's that message that Bill Johnson preached years ago. And he basically was like, I'm, like, everybody knows I'm kind of the boss around here.
Right.
Like, when it comes to Bethel, I'm the guy.
I can do what I want.
I can do whatever I want here.
Right.
I can fire anybody I want. I can make any changes I want.
Yeah.
And he said what he's learned over time is that the easy route would be for him to remove anybody from his sphere.
Yes.
That causes him, I think, as he put it, that would cause him friction.
Right.
Right.
That would be kind of a pain in his, pain in his side.
Certain people are harder to be around, and he has the authority to remove them.
Yeah.
If he wanted to.
Yeah.
But he said that he learned over time that when those people are around, it's actually to his benefit, because that friction causes him to become aware of areas that he can still grow.
Right.
That he can learn to love well.
Yeah. And he talked about, there's two different kinds. Some people are not. It's like I think spiritual maturity is finding out and placing yourself around people that have been designed for you when it comes to friction. Like, there's like, at the end of the day, even though we have a lot in common and we're best friends, we have had friction.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just how we think and how we do things, and everything. But there are people who are designed to be around you for that purpose. Communities that is designed that way.
Yeah.
There's friction.
Yeah.
There's moments of, even in our own, like you take our, like my beloved community, like, there's different ways of thinking about things, and there's different thoughts, and there can be friction. I've noticed it more than ever with parenting.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? Like, parenting there's friction there, and even, you guys and us, we have so many things we do the same in parenting. And then we have things that we see completely differently that we do differently.
Right.
And there's friction there, but it's not bad.
Right.
It actually goes, I don't think about that like that.
Right.
I've never, had that thought.
Yeah.
Or, Brian is wrong, whatever. Whatever it may be. You have those, but yeah, there's a good place of friction, and that is, you're right, those are designed to build not only my ability to grow, but to love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is maturity.
Yeah. But yeah, you're right. if you take every opportunity that you can to remove people from your life who would think differently than you, who would do things differently, then you're going to stunt your own growth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because every one of those relationships presents opportunity
Right.
to grow
It's true.
and to learn how to love and to
Yeah.
learn how to navigate conflict and disagreement
Yeah.
well.
Well, and we talked about this. One of the teachings I did with the staff was about like how to collaborate well.
Yeah.
And even collaborating builds friction,
Yeah.
but it's to better what we're going to do. Because sometimes I may not learn the same as you.
Mm-hmm.
I may not process the same as you.
Yeah.
But I desire the same outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And collaboration creates enough friction where we both find a way to create healthy, you can use words like content or ways that everyone can learn and grow in something.
Mm-hmm.
And so, that's what communities were designed to do. They were designed to be a collaborative culture where we grow and we help and we do this and we do this and we do that.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I would never do this, and I disagree with it. Like, if you look back at the history of Apple, like Steve Jobs as a boss, it was a nightmare.
Wow.
Throwing stuff, angry.
Yeah.
Expected them to work 70, 80 hours a week. He created this, for him, terrible friction and, disjointed.
Yeah.
But man, sitting in a room all day long, friction, battling, it should be like this, it should be like this. Everyone having their own opinions. Look what's come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can't deny, the results.
Right.
They're a $1 trillion company.
Right.
Not $1 billion.
Yeah.
They're a $1 trillion company.
Yeah.
And so there is a place where friction and how many of us would have actually kept Peter around?
Right. He probably was hard to be around.
Yeah. He probably was a nightmare a lot of times. It feels like he's the worst.
Yeah.
And yet Jesus understood this friction of, look at John and James, burn this. Hey, why don't you just light this whole city on fire?
Yeah.
Screw these guys.
Right.
And Jesus is like, oh God.
Yeah.
But there's this thing of hey, if I can turn this zeal into passion of love,
right,
you'll be unstoppable. And he did.
Yeah.
And so there's a friction that is oftentimes needed, and it builds love.
Mm-hmm.
And I think oftentimes we'll see a lack of linear growth when we constantly push away things that push up against us.
Right.
That push up against how we want to believe, how we want to work, how we want to function. You know what I mean? It's not good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? We need those people around us that go, hey, I'm thinking about starting this. And then 3 months later, someone goes, hey, you said you were going to start that, but it's weird you're not doing anything.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sucks to have those people around you, but it's great.
Yeah. That, or to have people as you've helped us cultivate a collaborative culture here with the staff, to have not just that, but to have people who, if I present an idea, to have like you or an Abby or Braden come and say, hey, have you thought about this?
Right. Right.
And present, other ideas and other ways of thinking about this.
It's even been one of the great things about adding Stephen into our staff is because he comes from a predominantly different church culture than most of our staff.
Right.
He presents a different way of seeing things sometimes, and you go,
yeah. Yeah. And
I haven't thought about it
I love that, because in the staff meeting, he's not afraid to say, hey guys,
I would do it like this.
Yeah. Have you thought about this?
Right.
Or what about,
Yeah. And it creates moments, and it builds up people to understand. And it's also I think love doesn't need to be right.
Yeah.
When I'm operating in love, I don't have to win.
Mm-hmm.
So if I present an idea in a staff meeting, if I present an idea in our community, in my marriage, I don't have to win. If we go with something else, if it changes, it doesn't mean I've lost.
Right. Especially if the outcome is what we wanted all along, is that something good and something excellent is birthed.
Something beautiful comes from it.
Yeah.
And that's I think a real sign of spiritual maturity is when I can say, and I think that's a real sign of a mature church even, is when you can say, here's my thoughts. I've presented them. They've gone into the community. Some results have come out of them, and I'm content now.
Yeah.
I've presented myself.
Mm-hmm.
People have responded with love.
Mm-hmm.
May not do all the, you know what I mean? Like I think that's the way with anything. Like I'm down to hear any idea all
Yeah.
the time. Don't
Yeah.
be mad if I don't use your idea.
Right. Yeah.
That's how collaboration works sometimes.
Right.
Is you say something and I go, no, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And but there's a place of maturity. It goes, I didn't lose
Mm-hmm.
because I'm actually engaged.
Right.
So there's not a win-loss. Like I don't think love operates off wins and losses.
Yeah.
If you want to find a great way you're maturing spiritually is quit looking at things through win and loss. Quit looking at your marriage through wins and losses.
Right. Stop keeping records of
yeah. There's no
losses.
tabulations that need to be done here.
Yeah.
Like have I done what I need to do? Have I presented what I need to present? Have I communicated? Do I feel heard? You know what I mean? And that's where I find love begins to move in, and you start to see maybe a more linear path in how you're wanting to grow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I have another thought. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back.
Perfect.
Because I have another thought in the same way that you said that maturity is often mistaken for knowledge.
Yeah.
I think it can also be mistaken for gifting.
Wow.
So let's take a quick break, and we'll come back to that.
Cliffhanger.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Are you in the market for top-notch packaging solutions? Look no further. Introducing Associated Packaging, your trusted partner in packaging excellence. We specialize in providing high-quality packaging supplies and cutting-edge packaging automation. Our team is dedicated to ensuring your production runs smoothly with our factory-trained service technicians, just-in-time inventory management, and turnkey packaging solutions. Say goodbye to costly downtime. With Associated Packaging, you'll maximize uptime and reduce downtime, boosting your efficiency and profitability. Don't compromise on packaging quality and efficiency. Choose API for all your packaging needs. Call us today at 706-459-9996. Ask for Chad Balistreri or visit our website at www.associatedpackaging.com. Associated Packaging, where packaging excellence meets innovation.
All right. So, right before that, I said one of the things that maturity is often mistaken for is gifting.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And we've talked about this a lot.
Uh-huh.
How often do you see somebody? Well, and we'll keep this in the context of like ministry, like of the church.
Sure.
You see a pastor, you see somebody who's prophetic, apostolic, whatever you want to call it, and they're extremely gifted.
Yeah.
And there is a temptation to assume that because they're so gifted, they must be very mature.
Right.
There's a temptation there.
Right.
And it's easy to do.
For sure. Well, it's attractive.
It is attractive.
Very.
Yeah. But Paul even said in Romans that maybe 11, maybe 10, he said, the gifts and callings of God are irrevocable.
Yeah.
In some translations, it says they're without repentance.
Right.
Meaning that the Lord, he's not changing his mind.
No.
So you have the gifts that you have.
Right.
And he's not
forever.
Like that's it.
Yeah.
You can use them.
Which is something I'm extremely upset with him about.
Right.
There's some people you can see, it's like, you need this taken away from you.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
Because I think, that it's a sign often, I think people often use it as a sign when they're not living right, as it must not be that bad. Because I still have my mojo.
Right. My church is still growing.
Yeah, still got my mojo. So I can still prophesy over people and it's right.
Yep. I can still prophesy. My church is growing. So
people are being healed, whatever.
So,
who cares?
Maybe all the stuff I'm doing on the side isn't that bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so you see, and it breaks our heart every time when we see these really well-known preachers and pastors and people who have built big ministries and big churches, and it looks like they're doing everything right.
Right.
And it's like, oh, they've been having affairs for the last 15 years.
Right.
And you realize, oh, wait a minute. And you have to kind of reassess how you view maturity and how you view,
right. Well, one of the first things I felt like, when taking over Be Love was always keeping the realization and the reality that numbers are not the Lord's stamp of approval on your ministry.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
like, and I'm not bringing him up in a negative way, and I'm sure he's repentant, whatever you want to call it. But like, I think of guys like Bill Hybels out of Illinois, who has had since the 80s has had thousands. I think they had up to 40,000 people.
Yeah.
And in the 80s, they had 10, 15, 20,000 people.
Yeah.
And, had been sexually abusing his assistants since the 80s and grew by tens and 20s of thousands year over,
right,
a decade after decade.
Yeah.
And the thought is, okay, if this is big, it's the Lord's stamp of approval of it. And that's not the case.
Right. It's not.
No, like, success from a numbers perspective is not always the Lord's approval on something.
Right. Yeah.
It's just not how it works, not how it functions. Jesus not struggles with this, but this happens to Jesus.
Yeah.
He gives stuff like the Sermon on the Mount, everyone's in.
Yeah.
Everywhere he goes, there's like 10,000 people following him. He just can't get away. And they're like, give us the real juicy stuff. He says, okay, eat my flesh and drink my blood. And it says everyone left and only the 12 remained.
Only the 12. So he went from a following of upwards of maybe 15,000
Yeah, 15, 20,000 people to 12.
And he offended them.
Right. And it doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that numbers are a bad thing either. We don't want to pervert the other way.
Right.
Doesn't mean affecting people's a negative thing.
No.
Doesn't mean because you have a bad church now, it's a bad thing and you're evil either. I do think it's very hard to disciple the larger you get. And so I think oftentimes the temptation of a leader when you get large is to start to coast off the number.
Right.
And quit discipling. So that's the challenge. There's a different set of challenges that face you when you're large versus when you're small.
Yeah.
But it's not God's stamp of approval of success. Like, I find, in my personal opinion, Beloved to be one of the most successful churches in the country.
Right.
I think if other people walked in the door, they would think I'm smoking crack.
Yeah. Right.
But I have seen the growth in the people that we have.
Right.
I've seen the maturity in the people that we have. I've seen their ability to lean into teaching, to learning, to growing, to community. And I would say that we are one of the most successful groups of people on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're right. For Jesus, it wasn't about how many people were there as much as it was about who are those people becoming.
Right. Yeah. And, and it's hard because you can live a good life off your gifting without being submitted.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, like you're a talented fella. You know what I mean? Like, you're a good teacher. You can write books. It'd be easy to just kind of say, I'm just going to kind of do my thing. And without real much submission, I'm just going to figure it out and just kind of coast.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to do that. It's really easy to say, I mean, if you're a prophet and you can walk into a room and say, your kid's name is Bill and you worked at McDonald's for 20 years. And it's easy to just walk out of the room and go, great.
Yep.
Done. You know what I mean? There's another thing to be constantly submitted and live in a healthy place of the fear of the Lord.
Sure.
And that's where, because giftings will look like maturity.
Right.
And oftentimes we'll go, man, I wish I was that person. How many, I can't tell you the amount of ministers growing up, I thought, I wish I was like him. And then now they're divorced and probably living in Florida somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's heartbreaking. And it's hard because we oftentimes think gifts are something that are granted as we become this mature person.
Right.
But actually, like, maturity is just unlocking the designed person I've always been and the things that have always been in me.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Maturity, it won't bring the gift. It won't make the gift manifest, but it will change the way maybe you use the gift.
Right. Right.
Because
Exactly
even
right.
Paul said, 1 Corinthians, I think it's at the beginning of 12, maybe 13 or 14, but I think it's 12, where he says earnestly, he says pursue love.
Yeah. 12.
And earnestly desire the gifts.
Yeah.
And so the gifts aren't a bad thing.
Yeah.
Right. They're in us for good and for the edification of the people around us and for building the church.
Right, of course.
But we get it wrong to where he says, pursue love and earnestly desire the gifts. And I think we often will pursue the gifts and then desire love. Like we'll keep love kind of on the side.
Yeah, for sure.
And we
Yeah.
make it about the
What
gifts.
I want to be is talented.
Yes.
What I want to be is, good
Yeah.
at this thing. As a communicator, what you want to be is like the best communicator, the best preacher.
Right.
And even
Yeah.
Paul says at one point, I don't come to you with wise words.
Yeah. Yeah. He's like, I'm not even an eloquent speaker.
Yeah, I'm not coming to you with eloquent.
Yeah.
And Paul probably could have.
Yeah.
Paul's always humble. Like Paul could have came in and
Yeah.
and you know what I mean, showed up and showed out.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like, I come to you with the humility of like the gospel and the cross. It's enough.
Right.
It's enough.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard. Like, like you want to come in and you want to have a little screen behind you and you want to throw up all your scriptures and this and do all your stuff. And you want to come in and just like, how smart am I? Right.
Right.
And it's hard to just present the gospel.
Yeah.
It's one of the things, Mark has always talked about is how, like, we've always talked about, like, when he goes somewhere, like, I don't go to present how well I am, or how smart I am, how well I can preach, how well I can bring the house, whatever it is. I come to hopefully give people an encounter with the Holy Spirit.
Right. Yeah.
That's the centerpiece, is are people encountering the Lord.
Right.
And that's what Paul, I think, is talking about. And that is something different than my gifts.
Right.
And even the sad part is the person leading or using their gift can be operating in that. And it takes another type of love and wisdom and maturity for the person out listening or hearing or receiving that gift not to begin to idolize the gift and not see what that person's doing in private.
Sure. Yeah.
It's easy to go, man, that guy's just, he's doing it. And it's like, okay, but like that guy he's like going for it. He's in prayer. He's living the life.
Right.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That's a different way. And I think it's difficult because I think we all, at the end of the day, I don't think there's as much malice as we think. I think we all want to be effective. But sometimes effectiveness is simply loving well.
Yeah.
And that's maturity.
Yeah. It's just, it's loving those who are in front of you.
Yeah.
If you have 1,000, if you have 50.
Right.
It's loving them well.
Right. Yeah. And not faltering to ease, because love is hard.
Right.
Love is not always easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I operate just off my gifts, it's easy because that's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like operating out of my gifts and seeing that as maturity is a great thing because I can do that easily. It's what I'm gifted at. But maturity is going, what am I not gifted at? Let me grow. Let me pull people around me that will love me into maturity in all the areas that I am, that aren't about my gift, but are about the person of Noah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's what matters.
I was thinking about this morning even. So I mentioned earlier that like kind of the middle stage, the technon stage is equivalent to like that of a high schooler, like a spiritual high schooler. And when you think about high schoolers, they've grown up enough to know that they have knowledge, that they've got some experience and some knowledge, but they've not quite grown up enough yet to know just how much more growing there is for them to do.
Right.
And so they're kind of in this phase of like, I'm gifted and I have experience. And so the thought is often for people in that stage of life is I'm gifted, so why don't you notice me and promote me?
Right.
And that's kind of what,
Yeah, always. Well, there's a day you hit where you realize that God is, or the Lord is not trying to mature my preaching. He's trying to mature me.
Right. Your character.
My character.
Yeah.
The person of Noah.
Right.
He's not maturing my ability to lead. He's maturing the person of Noah. And it's like, well, hey, I've got all the gifts, like promote me, you know what I mean? And we see it. And I think like knowledge can prefer, like how many high schoolers, when we think of like technon, how many high schoolers do we know where like their parents are extreme conservatives and so now they're a liberal?
Sure.
They're in high school and they're like, I'm going to fight, like, screw the man. I'm going to fight the power.
Mm-hmm.
Or their parents are super, liberal. They're super free. And they're like, you know what? I'm moving down south and I'm going to
Yeah.
school and I'm gonna, you know what I mean? Like their parents,
Yeah.
like how many people do you see where it's like, my parents were hippies and now I'm an educator, or
Yeah.
my parents were educators, now I'm a hippie, and it's like knowledge can pervert us in a sense of I know better than you or the previous generation behind me,
Right.
and that's a really hard place to be, because knowledge without maturity is like a loaded gun in the hands of a toddler.
Yeah. Wow.
It's very scary.
Yeah.
Very scary.
Yeah.
I found myself in that place, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You come into age and you're like, you know what? My parents don't have any of this figured out, but I do.
Yeah.
I
Whenever I would teach this, I would always tell the story of Katie and I coming out of the ministry school we went to.
Mhm.
And pretty quickly after that, just realizing, or just really feeling a strong pull from the Lord to like sit under your parents. And so
Yeah.
we were like, yeah, like this feels like home. So we were at Covenant Life, and it wasn't long after that your dad asked us to be the youth pastors. And I remember thinking, like fresh out of ministry school, thinking like I've kind of arrived here. Like I've got it.
get ready. You.
Like watch out, guys.
Sure.
Because I'm
I have all the knowledge now. I've got my
Right.
certificate.
Yeah. And so, and it's such an easy place. And I do think that in the maturing process, that I think that all of these stages are necessary to a degree for us to go through,
right?
So that we can mature out of them into, like I would never expect Nora or Izzy or Benjamin or anybody to mature into like really healthy and whole adults without having also gone through the middle school phase and the high school phase.
Yeah.
Like as painful and awkward as those can be, they're necessary because they present opportunities for growth that will lead us into more wholeness and health,
Yes.
And so like I don't look back and think like, man, like I was so dumb for thinking that I was more ready to be in ministry than I was. But at the same time, like I wasn't as ready.
Right.
But I think it took me having maybe more confidence than I should have had.
Sure.
And
kind of went in head first.
Coming into a season and coming out of that season a year and a half later thinking, well, I might not know as much as I thought I did. Let's pump the brakes here.
Yeah.
And let's just kind of sit and
I'm not John Bevere quite yet.
Right.
Yeah. It's real. And there's and it's hard because sometimes it's only ignorance that would push us into that situation to come out of it on the other side more mature.
Yeah.
It's just the reality of it.
Yeah.
Sometimes ignorance makes me go into something going, yeah, I've got this.
Yeah.
I'll take this. I'll do my thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I think, me and my family have always had conversations about, me succeeding my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Even, like in a previous season, like with the church they were at. And I think like we initially started those conversations when I was like 19.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought like, I'd take it right now.
Yeah.
I'll take this church right now.
Right.
I grow it.
Yep.
I bring this church 3,000 people right now.
Mm-hmm.
And, like when B-Love started and we started together, there was very much just like, take as long as you want. You have it as long as you want.
Yep.
I'll hang out back here.
Mm-hmm.
I won't worry about the weight of things. You know what I mean? Like the weight of budgets and different things that you don't think about that aren't the glory of a stage or a title.
Right.
And it's like but sometimes like you have this zeal and sometimes you've got to come on the other side. But yeah, there's this place of like, I've got all the knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
But I think knowledge is awesome, but without application, it's just a figurative way of understanding existence. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you can graduate school as a surgeon and that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Start cutting people open.
Yeah. Right.
Like get to arteries
and
you've got to, you have to have the precision of a third of an inch.
Right.
And that's not a textbook. You know how.
Right.
But there's applied application. You know what I mean? Where Jesus modeled this constantly where it was, come in here. Here's the knowledge of the kingdom. I send you out. Come in here. Here's the knowledge of the kingdom. I'm adding more to your number. I send you out.
Right.
Come back to me. Go out. Come back to me. Go out. Jesus modeled this. Go into the wilderness. Be alone. Be with the Father. Go out. There's this two-edged sword of wisdom, which is knowledge and application.
Right.
Which both are needed.
Right.
And so in a sense, you want a hunger to be used, but you also need the information. I think people fall on either end of the coin.
Sure.
Like when I was in church, it was all about being called. You didn't have to be smart.
Sure.
You had the Holy Spirit, baby.
Yep.
And you didn't have to go to school. You didn't have to know theology. You didn't have to know none of that. You just had to get, you got alone with the Lord. He gave you deep revelation. That's what you preached, and you were fine.
Yep.
On the other end, there's extremely smart, intelligent, theological people. And when you see them, it's like, yeah, but like you haven't had enough application in life that you feel actually good at this. Like sometimes when really smart people communicate, like from a pulpit, you're like, that was great, but it's like it was coming from a cadaver.
Yeah.
It's like a dead person. Just give me that information.
Yeah.
And there's this two-edged sword of wisdom, which is knowledge and application, that I think, you had to walk through, where you went out going, here's the wisdom certificate. Then you got through application and you go, this isn't what I thought it was at all.
Yeah.
But application brought you to a greater place of wisdom that says, okay, now moving forward, I know I need both these things working and operating in the same way, in the same level continually.
Yeah. I think that is a sign of good leadership and discipleship and mothering and fathering.
Yeah.
Is a willingness to, to send people out. Like Jesus sent those guys out probably before any of us would have.
Years before. Years before.
He sent them out to go like, hey, you've seen me do this for a little bit.
Right.
I've taught you a little bit about the kingdom. Go have a run at it.
Yeah. Wear it out.
Come back and we'll see.
Live your life.
And then we'll talk about it. We'll see how it
Which
went.
is wild.
But I think that's a sign of healthy leadership, is a willingness to let the people you're raising up have opportunities to try and fail.
Yeah.
And to come back in
to
and
apply what they're learning.
Right.
Right. Because I think application will breed humility in a way knowledge never can, because application often requires me to go back to the source and tap out more knowledge and wisdom.
Right.
So like you had wisdom, you used application in youth. It didn't go the way you were hoping.
Sure.
And so you had to use humility to come back to the table and say, I don't know as much as I thought.
Right.
I know some, but I need more. And that's humility.
Yeah.
And I think that's what even Jesus does, is the disciples come back and they're like, it was great. It was awesome. And then it was like, but this whole town didn't even receive us.
Right.
And there's this sense of like, now I have to use humility to go back. And so I think wisdom is great because it teaches and gaining knowledge because it teaches us discipline.
Sure.
But application often brings the humility of, like, I don't know what to do. Like there's been tons of stuff taking over Beloved. I call people, I don't know what. Yeah. I don't know what to do on this.
Right.
I have an idea. So what do you think? You know what I mean? I'll call, I could call people like Mark and call, there's some other, leaders and pastors I have in my life that I call, hey, what's up with this? You know what I mean? And that's where application breeds humility to go, I'm not as smart. Right. And I only know that because I applied my wisdom. Yeah. And there's gaps.
Right. I'm not as well equipped as maybe I thought I was, or I was hoping I would be at this point.
Yeah.
And then as you go through that, you realize that that's okay. And that's such a necessary part of the growing process. Yes.
Application will always produce signposts of my lack of wisdom in places where I'm missing it.
Yeah.
Application will make me go, oh man, I'm applying my wisdom here, but I don't know this and I don't know that. Okay, here's a gap I need to close. And hopefully when I'm constantly using those things, I'm constantly closing gaps. And I find where most people begin to lose any type of linear spiritual maturity is when they go, I have enough wisdom and I can apply that enough to make it. And like oftentimes it's enough wisdom to know how not to get in trouble, and the application is my gift.
Right.
That's what it is. It's enough wisdom to not get too much in trouble or hide my sin. And the application I'm using is just simply I'm coasting off the gifts that God had already placed inside of me. Right.
And then over time you may realize too that your idea of making it wasn't even it at all.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
I think about your parents' story. Like they know how to grow a church if they want to grow a church.
For sure.
Right.
Definitely.
And so, their previous church was like one of the biggest in the denomination.
Yeah.
Growing rapidly.
Yeah, especially in the state of Georgia and especially in a small town.
Right. And so they had that, but then they kind of realized that there was this underlying sense of like unfulfillment,
Right.
in that like we've made it. If what we're looking for is like the big church model, we've
Yeah.
made it. But through time they realized that the Spirit was inviting them into a deeper place,
Deeper
into
encounter.
a more mature understanding of what success in
Right.
the kingdom looks like.
Right.
And
Right.
it doesn't, it, like you said before, having a lot of people at your church isn't a bad thing,
No.
but
No.
it is if that's your goal.
Yeah, if that's your God.
It's not a good goal to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oftentimes church size is so much attached to idolatry. It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just a form of idolatry.
Right.
And I think, the wisdom my parents showed was to say there's gaps in what a healthy church and what a healthy me looks like. I need to go find that.
Right.
So,
Mhm.
they used application to go to ministry school to
Mhm.
recover some things they didn't have in their church.
Right.
And that's a scary thing. It's hard to, do that and live out of that. It's difficult.
Yeah.
But that's maturity.
Yeah.
Maturity does the hard things.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a good way of looking at it too. That maturity, it's not always looking for the easiest path.
No.
Right.
No, it's looking for what's right.
Right.
And oftentimes what's right and beautiful is hard.
Yeah.
I was listening to a lecture by Andy Crouch, who runs Veritas, which is a nonprofit for new Christian entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And he's big in the tech space. So he's written a couple of books like the Tech Wise Family, a couple different things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was talking about mankind's move away from hard to easy and how it's affecting ourselves. So now, like, we don't carve things out. We have instruments that carve things out for us.
Sure.
We don't use vacuums. We use Roombas.
Right.
They vacuum for us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't learn things. I Google things.
Mm-hmm. Right.
As much as I hate it, like, it's easier. Like, I have a Bible software that I can go in and look through a couple hundred commentaries,
right,
lexicons.
Mm-hmm.
It saves me from having to go pull this off shelf, pull this off a shelf. And there's a place there's a place inside humanity where good things come from those that cultivate and build.
Yeah.
And I think maturity is knowing, like, I've got to cultivate and build something.
Mm-hmm.
We could have built Be Love the mega church Arcway.
Yep.
I could throw out free T-shirts and free hot dogs and signs and mailers and all the stuff. You know what I mean? And just go.
Right.
But I want to build deep, thoughtful sons and daughters that have a understanding of their theology, that understand love well, that understand community well. Because we can't build off of shallowness. We have to build off of solid foundations of solid people.
Yeah.
And so, like, you have to learn that building is not easy, but it is mature.
Right.
It is the mature thing to do.
Yeah. It's what I would call the Chick-fil-A model.
Right.
Because Chick-fil-A has been around a lot longer than most people realize.
Yeah.
And there's
decades upon decades.
There's this story where Truett and his guys, they were in like a board meeting, and the conversation was like, our competitors are growing way faster than we are. McDonald's is putting up locations 10
every
times
day,
everywhere. Yeah. Burger King, right? So they're looking at their competitors and they're realizing that their model is producing way more growth in numbers. And and the story goes that he said, I'm not looking to build fast, I'm looking to build well. And so we'll take this slow, and we will be highly intentional in how we build what we build, and in the culture that we build, and how we cultivate. And then now you look, and there's McDonald's has more buildings, has more locations, but there's not a single McDonald's location, to my knowledge, that can match what a single Chick-fil-A location can do in a day or a year.
I think the number one, like, most successful as far as revenue goes, fast food chain. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that.
Last time I looked it up, which has been a year or two, so I kind of doubt that it's changed.
Sure.
But last I looked, in terms of like one single location, what they'll do in a year blows everybody out of the water.
I know me and Bailey pour about 1.2 billion of our income a year.
Exactly.
Into Chick-fil-A.
Exactly.
So even if it's just me, I will actually leave here today and go get Chick-fil-A. So it's going to happen.
Have you ever been on a plane where there's somebody who gets on board and they're like a diamond member or platinum member, and they announce it, they're like, ladies and gentlemen, we have Bill Smith here,
Yeah, they get
That's
on
like
first.
you at Chick-fil-A. You walk in, they're like, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I have a booth with my name card in it. I'm like, you're in my spot, so get out of my seat. But yeah, there's the truth of building slow, building well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because, and I'm not saying this is our goal, but I was listening to a pastor talk about his mental breakdown the other day. And he was talking about how for 5 or 6 years, they grew by 1,000 people a year.
Wow.
And that's great if the foundation's healthy.
Right. If you can support that kind of a structure.
Oh, man. If you can't,
Mhm.
it's chaos.
Yeah.
Mass chaos.
Mm-hmm.
What do you do if you have a 2,000 person room and 6,000 people are there? How do you manage that? How do you manage the normal things? Add services.
Mhm.
Okay, but we're not trying to reproduce something.
Right.
This isn't like Be Love's not a product.
Yeah.
Our worship's not a product that we just reproduce time after time after time. I don't want that.
Right.
So how do you functionally manage and process those things?
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have a healthy foundation for what you're doing, you'll never get there.
Right.
And I even feel that way for like businessmen and entrepreneurs. Like if you don't have a healthy foundation, your marketing's not going to grow you.
Right.
It'll add numbers to you, but that'll crush you.
Mm-hmm.
Won't grow you.
Right. Yeah.
And church is the same way. Oftentimes that'll crush you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even most leaders end up in moral failure because their growth exceeded their foundation.
Yeah.
Personally,
mm-hmm.
and externally, as far as staff,
right,
discipleship, everything.
Right.
Like I think we're going to grow. I've had some recent words from the Lord about growth,
mm-hmm.
and so my job now are the people that we have in place as far as staff, is our kingdom family at a place in a mature level enough to grow where they could handle discipling and being there for others.
Right.
That aren't in what we're in yet.
Right.
Are they ready for that?
Right.
Is that even functional for us?
Right. Do we have a good handle on what discipleship looks like?
Yes.
On an individual level, on a corporate level?
Yeah. Do we have a spiritual infrastructure?
Mm-hmm.
Not just business. Do we have a spiritual infrastructure in place?
Right.
That says we could handle 700 people right now.
Right.
Do we have that?
Right.
Because if not, why would we want it?
Right.
Money? No.
Yeah.
To feel better about ourselves? No. It'll crush us.
Yeah. And being able to handle 700 people doesn't necessarily mean having enough seats in the house.
Yeah.
It means...
right. Doesn't mean we have a good Sunday service.
It means is there an opportunity for all 700 of those people to grow?
Right. Like right now, if I grab 10 random people out of our congregation that
mm-hmm.
are, normal attenders,
mm-hmm.
that means three times, hopefully at least 3 times a month. Not coming once a month.
Yeah.
But you're there every week. You're going to come to, company courses, all the different things. If I grab 10 people out and I say, give me a basic understanding of beloved identity, righteous
mm-hmm.
sonship, really the messages that we have in our house, they would go boom, 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 boom.
Mm-hmm.
I could pull out anyone. You know what I mean? If we had 700 people, could I do that same thing and it produced the same result?
Right.
If not,
mm-hmm.
then what we have is not ready for that.
Right.
Because if we can't take 700 people over the next X amount of years on the same journey we've taken 200 people, then we're not ready for 700 people.
Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to build a strong, and that I feel like goes with anything in maturity. If you're looking to be in ministry, your foundation better be strong enough to handle what you want to go into.
Right.
If you want to start a small business, you better have the mental fortitude and the ability to move into peace with the Holy Spirit when you have a hard month, 2 hard months, 3 hard months, 4 hard months.
Mm-hmm.
We have someone in our kingdom family that started a business right before COVID.
Yeah. Right.
Only the Holy Spirit can walk you through getting on the other side of COVID.
Right.
With starting a brand new business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so whatever it is, and we use, church because that's our sphere, but whatever you're in, is there a mental, are you mature enough to examine your foundation And are you humble enough to examine it and say it's good or it's not?
Mm-hmm.
And then do you allow people in your lives? We would use languages like mothers and fathers.
Mm-hmm.
You can use mentors or whatever.
Yeah.
People who disciple you, whatever you want. Are you also mature enough to allow other people to go, is the foundation strong enough?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because I can sometimes think it is, and then someone could come in, even you or whoever could come in and go, no.
Yeah.
There's not enough here.
Yeah.
There's not enough here to support what you're hoping to support.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to swallow, because oftentimes that means you've got to go build more foundationally.
Right.
You've got to develop more foundationally, and that's a lot more work.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to build high, you got to dig deep.
Right. Yes. That's really good.
Yeah.
So good, Ryan.
Yeah.
You're incredible, man. Incredible.
Well, this was great.
Yeah. This might be my favorite episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
So far.
It's super fun.
Yeah. I love this type of stuff.
I do too. It's so necessary.
Yep.
It's so necessary.
Yep. This episode's brought to you by Chick-fil-A, by the way, if you're interested.
If you go in and mention Noah Chant's name.
if you'll type Noah 30 into the coupon code at checkout, you'll get an extra 10% off.
Oh, one day.
One day.
Okay.
I don't even need like money from them. I just want them to go, we'll sponsor you and give you just free food. That's great.
Right.
I don't need a dime from you.
Yep.
I'll get a tattoo for the free food. I'll get a big Chick-fil-A tattoo. Them cows, whatever it is.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. You feel good?
Yeah, this is great. I
Okay.
think it's a great stopping place.
Okay. Same.
Yep.
All right. Cool. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for listening and thank you for watching. If you are watching, if you've not ventured over to our YouTube page, go ahead and head that way to the Be Love YouTube page, and you can find under the podcast tab, you can find all these episodes if you've not done that already. And if you are watching, go ahead and do us a favor and go ahead and like the episode. Go ahead and subscribe. That really helps us out on our page. Tremendously.
Like the video, subscribe to the channel.
Like it, subscribe.
All of our messages are on there, all of our podcast episodes.
If you're on Instagram, go ahead and do the same thing.
Yeah, share it.
Yeah.
Just get the word out, man. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you for watching and thank you for listening. We love you all and we'll see you next week.